Morning, guys. Happy Friday. It's March 21st, 5:27 a.m. Central Time. Grain market's just a little bit higher this morning. Matt Bennett is here. Guys, the corn market bounced yesterday. Let's start there.
The nearby May 25 contract peaked near 470 and gained 7 cents per bushel on the day. Gains in new crop contracts were limited. The December 25 contract gained less than 2 cents per bushel. Yet another week of strong export sales may have been the catalyst for the rally. Still, many traders and analysts have argued that USDA may be understating U.S. export demand by a significant margin.
Now, we're going to get to export sales in a second, but Matt, May corn futures, spot contract floating around 470. What kind of story do we have from here?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question is that can you get a story really ramped up and going before, this March 31st report? I mean, we know we've got so much going on, end of month, end of quarter, quarterly stocks, acreage. I think if there's anything a person can maybe tip their hat to, it's that, old corn does have some enthusiasm. I mean, this export situation, they should have made an adjustment in March. I think we all knew they probably wouldn't. But I think the telltale is going to be, are they going to do something in April? Or is it just going to be a stair step into May? I guess my thought is that, in May, they know they're going to get probably a massive number for new crop balance sheet because, they're going to use the 181. And so if they throw this big acreage number that we all assume they're going to throw, I think that they're going to try to tighten up the old stock. So do they wait till May to do that? I don't know. But this export, it has to go up.
Matt and I have a national corn yield bet that we're going to discuss in a couple segments from now. Matt, is the most bearish thing about old crop corn, new crop corn? Is that the deal?
Right now it is. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, stop and think about it, Joe. I mean, let's go all the way back to last year's Outlook Forum, like back in 24, and they suggested that this stocks number was going to end up at a 2.5.
Yeah.
And then you come in here in January, you're at a 1.5, and now we're talking about, hey, we maybe are closer to a 1.4. And this is the same time that exports on a week that I think we needed 10,000 tons and what did we do 50? I mean, it was one heck of a week once again. So we just continue to see this old crop thing tighten up. Now, one thing we've been noting is the Eastern rail basis. This Southeast, obviously they did not have a good crop out there. It's a net deficit area as far as corn goes. I think that's going to filter in. I think that you're going to have some parts of the country that are going to be screaming for corn moving forward.
Yeah. All right, let's go to export sales, which were a big deal yesterday.
U.S. wheat export sales experienced a large net reduction last week. Net wheat sales reductions of 9 million bushels notched a marketing year low, falling significantly below pre-report expectations. The print was down noticeably from the previous week and from the prior 4-week average. The decline was primarily driven by Panama, which had been the top wheat purchaser the previous week. Net corn sales were strong at 59 million bushels. The print was up 55% compared to the previous week and 45% from the prior 4-week average. Japan was the largest corn buyer for the week. Net soybean sales fell below expectations at 13 million bushels. The print was down 53% from the previous week and 29% from the prior 4-week average. China was the largest soybean buyer for the week.
Is it fair to say, Matt, that corn rallied on export sales data while wheat sold off on export sales data given the cancellations?
I think so. I mean, when you look at the way this week has played out, volume's been pretty abysmal.
Yeah.
There hasn't been much to go on. And so you come out here with export numbers on Thursday, and you've only got to assume that that's the reason why corn had some strength and wheat didn't. I mean, there just wasn't anything else to talk about.
Yeah. Here's the chart of corn export sales, which have been fantastic. Second or third best book of the last 10 years. And we've been able to do it largely without China. So there is some idea out there, and I would probably push the idea that USDA is too low with this export projection. People are still talking the front loading argument though, Matt. And I don't know if I can buy into it. US corn is ultra competitive on the export market right now. There's not much competition out there.
No, there's not much competition, and we're getting. You could say it's not late in the year for front loading, but let's face it, this has lasted way longer than what a lot of people thought that it would. Yeah. We just continue to churn out these numbers, and so with us being this competitive on the world market, you've got to assume that you're not going to have any competition to speak of, until this safrinha crop really starts to come online. And who knows what's going to happen there. I do think that might be part of the enthusiasm with corn as well, is that, their weather isn't absolutely ideal. I mean, they keep saying, hey, there's weather, coming in the 2-week forecast, but I'll tell you what, they're awful dry.
The domestic corn situation in Brazil is fairly tight, as I understand it. And maybe that limits what they can export at some point, or how low they can go with regard to export pricing. Let's jump to the drought monitor, which I think is going to become a lot more important here as we move forward.
Portions of the Corn Belt received rainfall last week, leading to improved drought conditions across Illinois, Indiana, and southern Michigan. Conditions worsened throughout Missouri. The High Plains experienced predominantly warm, dry, and windy conditions last week, which caused drought conditions to worsen across Kansas and Oklahoma. When we look at the percentage of U.S. areas experiencing drought, corn country 53%, soybeans 42%, winter wheat 34%, spring wheat 39%, and cattle country 43%.
53% of corn areas experiencing drought is fairly high historically. I mean, you get up there from time to time, but then you'll go years where you don't get above 20 or 30%. Like that whole period from 2016 through most of 2020, you never got above 20%, I don't think. So I don't know, what sort of concern do you have going into the growing season, Matt?
I mean, this isn't the time of year that you usually have drought. I mean,
Yeah.
you usually get spring rains, and people get recharged. You get a little bit of subsoil moisture going. Now, most of us would say we want a dry spring, right? So we can get good germination, we can get good uniform soil moisture. But at the same time, I'll tell you what, we all need moisture throughout most of the Corn Belt. This is not a good time to be able to get it. And so I think, Eric was telling us on Monday that he thought, our part of the world might have a little more rain than what we want actually during the spring. And then we're all going to dry out over the summer. So maybe the Western Corn Belt gets to rolling big guns early on due to how dry they're going to be, which I think they'd be fine with that, but they're going to need some serious moisture through the growing season. These hybrids, they're able to do a lot without a whole lot of moisture. But I guess the problem is some of the long-term forecasts, of course, are a little more ominous. But yeah, it's too dry right now for this time of year for me.
Near-term forecasts, there is some scattered, I'll call it rain in the forecast over the next 10 days through the end of the month. You've got some areas that'll hit, some areas that'll miss, and these maps, of course, are not 100% reliable necessarily. According to our friends at Crop Profit, you're going to see some increased rainfall versus normal in the Dakotas, also in Minnesota, maybe eastern Iowa, northern Illinois. But then you've got like far western Iowa into parts of Nebraska, into Kansas, Oklahoma, that are going to be drier. Let's go to our national corn yield bet, Matt. So Matt texted me yesterday, and he said, Joe, I'll make a bet with you. I bet you the national corn yield is going to be under 177. And I don't have a real strong opinion about this, Matt, but I said, how about 176? Because I'm a sucker for some action. And we settled on 176.5. The bet is a bottle of bourbon. I'm assuming that we have to wait till January to find out the winner.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all it boils down to is I texted Joe and I said, hey, I mentioned on the Wednesday premium video that Eric had some pretty interesting stuff to talk about on Monday, Snodgrass, as far as weather was concerned. And he is concerned. I mean, it's not just throwing it out there in the wind. It's a scientific way he comes to it. And I just said, if anybody wants the video, let me know. I don't know how many people total you've got subscribing right now, Joe, but I bet at least 50 people reached out and said, hey, we want to see that video. And I said, okay, here we go. So I said, let's just make a friendly wager. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I got to save up a little bit, but if I win this thing, it's going on the mantle. I told my wife, I said, it's a trophy.
This is a friendly bet. I don't have a strong opinion here, but again, I'm a sucker for some action. I'll say this. If you win, I hope you win bigly. I don't want 176. Like if you win, I want like 160 so we can have ourselves a market and make some money. Because damn well the farmer's going to make more money if this thing like falls off a cliff and we have a disaster. If you just have a 176, that may not necessarily be the best thing,
Right. And I mean, the only reason why I'm a little bit low here is just we're pushing acres. Okay. And so
I know
there's no doubt if you're going to really push hard on acres, you're going to bring in a fair amount of fringe acres, what I would call maybe not, ideal, more of your inclement acre, and then a lot of corn on corn acres. So corn on corn can yield with the best of it. It's just, you need the right type of year. And so there is a little bit higher risk this year that you would be sub trend. And so I'm just going to make a friendly wager. Why not?
You guys, this bet and what you're seeing here is not marketing advice or lack thereof. This is for fun and for the amusement of the people here. So, anyways, we'll keep tabs on that bet, Matt.
Absolutely.
U.S. and Canadian biofuel companies are cutting production due to uncertainty regarding the Trump administration's policies on biofuel subsidies and trade. Trump's shifting stance on tariffs has created instability throughout the industry. Additionally, the administration has yet to finalize 45Z tax credit guidance. Declining demand, an oversupply of soybeans, and a nearly 60% drop in crush margins compared to last year are expected to reduce U.S. soybean acres this spring. As uncertainty persists, the biofuel industry is likely to continue shrinking, facing significant financial losses in the process.
We're just so far overdue with this 45Z guidance. And now you're seeing divestment, which is not shocking. I don't think this is news to anybody, but how bad is this going to get?
It's concerning to say the least. The thing is, I mean, this was discussed, and hey, we're going to find out early enough that guys can make some plans last year, for the 25 crop, and clearly that did not happen. If you're going to make any sort of changes, if you're going to plant cover crops where you haven't done that before, if you were going to do some of the things that they were asking us to do to be able to qualify for 45Z, you got to know that in advance. Really, it'd be nice to know it before harvest even starts, but that's not something that we had. And so my concern here, Joe, once again, I've talked about this a lot, but we continue to not only lose market share to Brazil, but our market volume or export volume as far as beans are concerned continue to dwindle. And so corn, like right now, this has been a great year, there's no question about it, but for soybeans it's a little more concerning. And with that being the case, what is the future? I mean, what does the future hold if we don't have a renewable fuels commitment of some sort? Are we going to be concerned still about clean air? I don't know. I mean, I think some of this stuff gets overdone, but at the same time, the grower is growing energy. That's all there is to it. And so, energy is pretty important moving forward. We'll see what the government says they want to do about it.
Yeah, the story with 45Z as it stands right now, the IRS and the Treasury Department issued preliminary guidance on 45Z on January 10th. We're in a public comment period right now. The comment period ends on April 12th. However, Trump's regulatory freeze pending review deal could delay or prevent finalization of the preliminary guidance. So we're just kind of left here waiting for the time being.
The Buenos Aires Grains Exchange lowered its forecast for Argentina's soybean crop yesterday. The exchange estimates the crop at 48.6 million metric tons, down 1 million metric tons from its previous forecast. The revision is attributed to hot and dry conditions that have impacted yields in the country's northeastern region. According to the exchange, the adverse conditions could reduce yield potential by 22%. Roughly 10% of Argentina's soybean crop is located in the area. The drought is also impacting the corn crop, with the exchange now forecasting a 40% decline in yields compared to its previous estimate. However, the exchange maintained its crop forecast of 49 million metric tons due to a 7.6% increase in corn acres.
That wasn't a typo, was it, Mackenzie? The 40% decline in yields?
No, that is that. I read that. That is correct. I do know
Okay,
that.
so 40% decline in yields, but they left the crop estimate unchanged?
Yeah, and they said because they had
Cool.
this increase in acres. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the drought situation has improved. As a matter of fact, over the last 30 days, a lot of corn and soybean country in Argentina has seen above normal rainfall. I guess it's in the north and northeast, and maybe some earlier season, just lingering type drought. It seems to me, Matt, though, that we're kind of moving past the South America production story, and now we're going to start to focus on other things.
No, I agree. I mean, the thing is, Argentina averted a disaster. They thought that they could have one in the making, and then you turned around and had enough rain, to kind of get them shored up, if you will. There's no doubt when you look at Brazil, it's probably more of a story. Clearly, they raise a lot more corn than what Argentina does. I don't know what they're going to come up with, but Brazil doesn't raise near as much as what the U.S. does. So let's just be pretty clear about it. What's important over the next 3 months is, how many acres do you get planted here in the U.S. and do you get through pollination in decent order? I mean, now we remember last year, of course, we did get through pollination in great shape. And then you turned around in August, I guess, and you extracted 5 bushel an acre. I mean, it's not all over yet, but I'll tell you what, if everything looks good on July 15th. And I don't think this corn market's going to be a whole lot of fun if you plant 96 million acres.
And what is your corn yield or corn? I'm sorry. What is your corn acre number that you're working with right now?
Yeah, so we came up with 95.39 on corn and 82.75 on beans. Joe, I tell you, the ag market JSA team, we surveyed everyone, and then of course everyone was supposed to talk to their growers and survey a lot of phone calls. And I would say like 68% of the respondents said more corn this year, which I thought was just freaking huge. I was shocked, quite frankly. And so if I told you 95.39 is my number today, which it is, Joe, I think it's probably going to come in lower. I think the USDA will be higher than my number, is what I'm saying. But at the same time, if USDA comes in close to where I'm at, I think that the June number will certainly be above 95.39. But that's just my opinion.
I'm in the 96 camp, but I've been wrong before.
I'd agree with you. I think it's closer to that.
The EU has postponed its planned 50% tariff on American whiskey. The levy was originally set to take effect on April 1st, but has been postponed to mid-April, which aligns with the EU's broader response to U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. The delay will allow more time for negotiations between the two nations. An EU official stated that the bloc is prepared to seek a resolution that minimizes economic disruption for both countries. In anticipation of the EU's tariffs, U.S. distillers have been shipping as much product as possible to Europe. Last week, President Trump threatened to impose a 200% tariff on all alcohol imports from Europe in response to the EU's proposed tariff on American whiskey.
So is this Trump winning a trade war? Is that what this is?
Let's hope.
He came over the top with the 200% after they were talking tariffs, and now they kind of backed off.
I would like to hope so, but who knows?
The Europe thing doesn't matter a whole lot for our crowd here, but I think it's important to pay attention to what's going on in the negotiations.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, the thing is that every time that we talk about this, in my opinion, whenever we're making threats on tariffs, people have to understand. Everyone freaks out, but it's a negotiation tactic, is what it is. And so you're trying to get, obviously, the EU to, you're trying to elicit a response from them, and that's what's going on. And so, a lot of people don't like his style. I totally get that, but at the same time, in many ways, he's been fairly effective. So I don't know. Yeah, I just think it's negotiations, what it is.
We failed to mention, I didn't discuss this in the export sales section. So we did not see soybean cancellations. China was actually still the largest buyer of old crop U.S. soybeans last week, despite the fact that tariffs went into effect 2 weeks ago now. So I guess that's a positive if you want to paint it that way. What did cattle do yesterday?
Cattle futures continued to march higher. Live cattle were $1 to $2.17 higher. Feeders saw gains ranging from 107 to 172. We have a cattle on feed report coming out here this afternoon. Cattle on feed as of March 1st are estimated at 98.3% of year-ago levels. Placements during February are pegged at 84.5% versus last year, and marketings last month are estimated at 92% compared to last year.
So we've had a rally in cattle going into what's supposed to be a bullish report. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, a lot of times when you have something like that going into a bullish report, you got to be a little bit cautious. I mean, obviously we're in uncharted territory again. I just would be very, again, cautious. I would have a floor under myself. I mean, this cattle market takes no prisoners when it decides its turn. It's bullish fundamentally long term, and I think it's bullish right now, but everyone knows it's bullish right now. So just be careful.
In your career, Matt, and when it comes to things we grow in the United States, corn, soybeans, wheat, and then you can throw cattle and hogs and stuff in there. Have you ever seen a bull market this strong?
No, I haven't.
And this long lasting?
No, I haven't. And that's, I can answer that very resolutely. And the reason for that, is because with whatever we're growing, corn, beans, wheat, different people can raise wheat. You can fix that in 6 weeks. Everyone grows wheat. Corn, you can fix it over the course of a year, but with cattle, you can't fix it overnight. I mean, a cow has 1, maybe 2 calves a year, and that's it. And that's if you're blessed. It doesn't always work that way either. And so, this cattle thing is not going away anytime soon. And so this is a very bullish story. But the only thing I'd remind people of, once again, is cattle are cyclical, first of all. And second of all, this has been very well boosted by the funds being long cattle. And you might have a fund manager come in one morning and say, I'm tired of this cattle thing, and then that guy gets spooked, the next guy gets spooked, and you got to watch out. So, but yeah, it's bullish. I mean, long term, it's certainly a very friendly fundamental situation.
Outside market's pretty quiet here on Friday. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Matt, thanks for joining us. Go Illini. Talk to you on Monday.